Hello, I'm Deb, and this is TED. And we're here for the third edition now, fourth, I can't remember, of our TinyTalk TED Talks series. Today we're going to be talking to you about signing with toddlers. Let me just turn my music down a bit while we wait for other people to find us. Thanks very much for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed the previous episodes of our TED Talk series. If you have missed them, you can find them on our YouTube channel, on the Facebook event itself, or on our Facebook page, which is TinyTalk Kent Downs. So today we're going to be telling you all about using signs with toddlers, and we're calling this talk Stepping Stones to Speech. Now, toddlers normally learn to talk around about 2 years of age. Obviously, you know, how long's a piece of string? Sometimes it happens way before that, and sometimes it happens way after that as well. But within that kind of general framework, around about 2 years, that's a long time to wait before you can get a good insight into what's going on in your little person's life. If you joined us earlier in the week, you would have heard about how signs are so beneficial for children and for parents as well. So what I'm going to talk to you today is about how signs really come into their own when used with toddlers. Now, the concept of baby signing is quite common these days. TinyTalk's been going for 18 years now, and I'm finding that I no longer have to really explain the concept as much as we did years and years ago. It's a much more well-known concept now, and lots of primary schools and preschools are using sign to back up what happens in their settings, as well as make education and learning much more inclusive for everybody. The first thing to note about signing with a toddler is that it really alleviates their frustration. Now imagine you're 2 years old or thereabouts, you've got tons of stuff to tell your grown-up, but you can't quite get it out. You might be making kind of vague attempts at maybe some noises, maybe even kind of pointing at things and using some signs, but essentially the noises that you're making and those speech sounds that you're working on, oh, cat, how random, cat. The noises that you're making as a toddler, you can't quite make your grown-up understand what's going on. So signs in that context can be so helpful to help a child clarify what it is they're trying to say. Now, I remember quite clearly my eldest getting quite frustrated because he was saying dot, dot. And I'm like, what is that? Walking around the playroom, vigorously getting cross, dot. I don't know. And it's just tons and tons of guesswork as a parent unless your child can make themselves understood. Now, what happened in the end is that he made the doll sign. And dot, doll, gotcha. Now, because I'd gone through a whole load of options in my head beforehand. Was it dot, dog, or dot, doll? Actually, at that point, he couldn't say crocodile very well, so he would sign, he would sign croc when he was saying dot as well, croc. So there were loads of different ways in which he could use his signs to tell me which of those speech sounds he was actually trying to get across. And that was super, super helpful as a parent. Nothing worse from a little person's point of view. If you are getting frustrated and you can't get your point across and tell your grown-up exactly what you meant, what are you going to do? You're going to have a tantrum. And I know that's kind of commonplace for tons of toddlers, but you can avoid loads of them if you have got an alternative means of communicating between the two of you. And that's where, for me, signs really come into their own with toddlers. It really helps to kind of clarify their speech as well. While children do learn to talk, it doesn't come out perfectly the first time. Half of us grown-ups struggle with that quite a lot of the time. But when children are learning to speak, sometimes the sounds are a bit jumbled, the clarity of their speech is a little bit wishy-washy, and so to be able to back up what it is they're trying to say with a sign can be so helpful. Loads and loads of our toddler parents attest to the fact that it's just It's such a helpful tool. It saves loads of crying, it saves loads of guesswork, and I say crying from the child's point of view and probably the parent as well. Loads of guesswork on the parent's behalf, tons of frustration from the child, just to be able to use your hands to tell your grown-up what's going on. Also, signing really increases their vocabulary, and you might kind of wonder why that is, but that's because at a younger age, before they're able to make some speech sounds, they are able to use their hands to indicate areas of interest, things around them that they want explained. Children would point at something, what's that? And then a grown-up would say, it's a helicopter. And then child's learn a new word, and because he hears grown-ups say it as well as making the sign, he's already processing what that is. He's seen the object, he knows the sign, and now he's hearing the word for it as well. So you're expanding your child's vocabulary when you use signs. If a child weren't able to sign, they might have spotted the helicopter, they might even have been able to point to it, but that might have been where that whole interaction ended. So signing builds on a child's vocabulary. It also enables them to understand at a much earlier age how two-way communication works. So child wants something, maybe points at something, maybe uses a sign. What's that? Or want. That's quite a common one for toddlers. And then grown-up kind of reacts to that sign. Oh, you want some food? Yes, please. And already there's a conversation going on. Whereas if that weren't the case and the child didn't have signs at their disposal, there would be quite a lot of pointing, probably quite a lot of grunting, and maybe some tears as well. So it's such a handy tool for supporting a child's speech way before they're at the point where it comes out clearly and understandably to everyone. I'm imagining as well, because I know this was the case with my eldest child definitely, that when a child does learn to talk, it's not always clear for everyone else involved. Parents, yeah, you can understand what your child's talking about because you're there all the time and you hear them and you know the subtleties in the speech and in their intonation and the way they pronounce things and the things they're trying to portray with that speech. But for everyone else, maybe incidental caregivers or other adults or friends even, they might kind of listen in and think, I'm not quite sure what he's saying. But again, if a child can use their speech, use their signs to back up their speech, super helpful. Now in our toddler classes as well, it's not just all about spoken word, supporting the spoken word. We also do tons and tons of work on social skills as well, and we know that that's a really tough thing for little people, but they're challenges that they need to start addressing from an early age. Society expects children to be able to follow instructions or take turns or wait or share, and all of these social skills that we start to build on from quite an early age. And by the time a child does move on to preschool or to primary school, those concepts are already being acted upon and quite familiar to the child. It doesn't come as quite as a shock when they do get into a more formal setting about how to follow instructions. And again, as I said before, because that two-way communication thing already happens because a child uses signs, they've got such a great head start when they move on to a different educational setting. So what else do we do in our toddler classes? There's loads of focus on early learning skills as well, again to support the child as they move on to preschool and primary school as well. Things like shapes, which is basically kind of basic starter maths and spatial concepts, colours, counting, all of these things which a child starts to learn and they're curious about and they want to soak up all that information. So we cover all of those things as well. The basic way to get started with a toddler, really, don't ever feel like you've left it too late. If you're kind of listening to this and thinking, oh, I really wish I'd started when my child was a baby, don't worry, you're not too late. Firstly, by starting a bit later, your child's already got control of their hands, so they can dive straight in there, pick up the concept really quickly and get going immediately with using their signs. I would say the first thing to do really is narrate your day. So talk about what you're doing all the way through, from getting up in the morning. Use as many signs as you're able, and if you do come to classes, we can give you all that vocabulary. We've also got home learning materials, so if you can't make it to a class, we can give you a whole signing pack, 150 signs there to get going straight away at home. Talk about as you get up, you know, you're getting dressed, you're putting on your clothes, you're eating your breakfast. Talk about what food you're eating. You can talk about where you're going to go today. You can talk about who's coming with you. Loads and loads of vocabulary and communication skills going on right through the day there. And that's the best way to give your child a great head start in terms of them using their signs. At TinyTalk, we always see the object, then say the word, and then make the sign. So your child is linking real live objects and concepts immediately with the signs and the words for those things. And in that way, you're supporting your child's speech. We do hear quite a lot, you know, well, why would a child learn to talk if they're using their hands all the time? And, you know, why would a child learn to walk if they can crawl? They just do. It's natural evolutionary concept, evolutionary process. So definitely by using your child's hands to make signs, you're not going to hold them back. You will just give them a head start. It tends to work the other way. And definitely because we're saying the word at the same time, you're supporting their speech as it comes through. In fact, you'll probably see tons of other benefits, as I've already mentioned, in terms of less frustration and less guesswork as well. A great thing to think about when you're talking about toddlers learning to talk is play noises. Now we use these quite a lot in class because actually noises are a child's basis for making speech sounds. So when you do things like car noises or beep beep, or even animal noises, moo, your child's getting an understanding of what happens with those objects, but also gets great practice at using their mouth, their tongue and their lips and their voice box as well, all of those elements for making speech. So really, signs come into their own with toddlers. They're a brilliant parenting tool and communication tool for younger babies, but actually I just find that for toddlers it's such an incredibly useful stepping stone before they get to the point where they can talk fluently, where you can head off any tantrums, any kind of miscommunication just by using your hands. How amazing is that? So I think that's pretty much it for our TED Talk today. Thanks very much for joining us. If you did want to know about our toddler talking classes, we're just about to take a break for the summer holidays, but we have got some classes running on a Monday. If you're interested, give us a shout. We hear quite a lot of parents contacting us because they've been referred to speech therapy, and lots of speech therapists will say, while you're waiting for your appointment, see if you can learn a few signs. So if you're in that position, do give us a shout. All of our classes are online at the moment and you can get straight in and start learning those signs now with us. The Facebook page is TinyTalk Kent Downs. You can check out our website tinytalk.co.uk for more information. If you want to join us later in the week, tomorrow's talk is all about why choose TinyTalk. Tune in to find out. Thanks for being with us tonight, guys. Bye bye.